afternoon, my friends. This is Paul, and we are finally back to continue our journey of explaining every single reference on the back of this t-shirt that Esabelle and Sipporah Arts and Illustrations made for me for my birthday. Last time we covered Esabelle's three least favorite mission trips, which were 2018, 2016, and 2013. So this is her fifth least favorite. So we're getting into the middle ground where I guess she considered this mission trip to be just okay. This was 2014. I remember really loving 2014 probably more than I should have because 2013 was such a massive disappointment to me because the previous three mission trips were so incredible that the content in the program seemed like a little bit of a letdown. So 2014 was like kind of a return to form of what Catholic Heart was. Now that I think about it, I kind of had that back and forth mentality for quite a few because 2013 was a disappointment, then 2014 built from that, then 2015 was a disappointment, and then 2016 was like a recovery from that. So the first story we have for 2014 is the Jesus boxes. We were just minding our own business one evening, and the staff members just pulled out some boxes from behind the stage and started randomly scribbling on it. And at first, those of us in the audience were like, okay, it's just scribbling, what the heck? But then, and keep in mind, they had the super amazing music track playing in the background. I forgot what music was actually playing, probably something I had never heard of. And then they rearranged the boxes so that it turns out that the scribbles they were drawing was actually Jesus's face. And then, just to even further add to it, they spray painted the top red to, match the blood coming from the crown of thorns. And then they kept that up the rest of the mission trip. It was even the dividing wall between the people that were having reconciliation and the rest of the people, because in the Catholic Church, confessions are supposed to be between the confessor and the priests. And I believe all of us simultaneously said that is by far the coolest thing we've seen this entire week. That may have been the coolest thing that we saw, not necessarily the coolest thing that happened, but we'll get to that in due time. The next item we have here is hit it when in doubt. I really should have thought of the order of these better because this is skipping quite far ahead toward our free day. For our free day, we went to Waldemere Amusement Park, which was notorious for being a cashless park. So therefore, it only took either debit or you could pay cash at a kiosk to get what was called a Wally card, which was basically like a debit card that only worked in the amusement park. But the kiosks weren't working properly when we went there. Every time the teenagers would try to put in money, they wouldn't be able to get the money back. At one point, one of our adult chaperones went over to one of the attendees and was like, hey, this teenager didn't get his money back. And so the attendee was like, oh, okay, here's the money. But then eventually it got to be so bad that that same chaperone, who became quite a meme for how unchaperoned like he was, said, you know what? I bet this machine will just fix it if we hit it hard enough. So he smacked the machine so hard that the door to it actually came open. So then he reached inside, grabbed the Wally card, handed it to the teenager, and just like shut the door and said, there you go. You paid for it after all, so no harm done. So that's where we came to the realization that his motto in life is, when in doubt, hit it. And that's not even the end of his shenanigans on this list. Next we have the Legend of Lord Waldemere. This was a prank that one of the teenagers played in our group leader. Now he was notorious for several crazy shenanigans that he got into because he had this really unique voice that made it sound like everything he said was a joke. Unfortunately, this didn't make the list of things that Esabelle could put on the t-shirt, but in 2013 there was an incident where he tried to prank call Basil Marceau, a government official, and it actually worked. So this year he thought, that's not good enough, I'm going to fool our group leader. So when we were all like sitting around making up our minds about where we were going to go to eat, he started talking about how Lord Waldemar was a revered general in the Revolutionary War and he did all these great accomplishments. And our group leader was like, "Wow, he's such an amazing guy. That's so cool that we went to an amusement park named after him." And then he just said, "Yeah, no, I'm just messing with you. I just made that stuff up." But I guess like Waldemar does sound like a Revolutionary War general if you think about it. Like, answer me straight in the comment section. If you hadn't known that it was a joke, would you have thought that Lord Waldemar was a real person? Next, we have the concrete miracle. Now, this is the coolest thing that happened on that trip. Again, giving me yet another reason why I chose the order of this completely wrong. This happened on our work project when we were assigned to fix the back porch, backyard, and also paint one of the interior rooms of our residence house. Unfortunately, we got everything done except for the back steps leading up from the porch, and that was because the camp didn't really provide us with any concrete to get it done. So I was with one other adult on our team, and we were discussing, like, yeah, we're not going to be able to get this finished because Catholic Art didn't give us concrete. On our list of like things to know for the work project, we weren't given a number to contact Catholic Heart. And then I think like one of the later days we got the camp to deliver us more supplies, but they still didn't give us concrete. So we said we're just going to have to put on the team report that we couldn't get it finished and just say, "Hey, you didn't give us what we needed." So we wrote up the team report, we got the teens all together, and we were on the porch of the house waiting to call it a day and wait for the bus to pick up. And then, as we were waiting, a concrete truck just so happened to stop at the house directly across from us to fix a hole in the road. And so the other adult leader and one of the teens from his parish looked at each other and they said, concrete trucks always have leftover concrete when they're repairing a hole. So Jeff, the other team builder, he went across the street to go and talk to the concrete worker. Not only did he get enough concrete so that we were able to completely change plans and finish the back step and be able to etch in their epic 2014 CHWC, but it turns out that the guy who was the construction worker said that they were actually in the same graduating class in high school, and I believe there were only 26 people in that class. And so I thought it was cute when one of the youngest daughters of our residents said, "What does epic mean, Mommy?" There I go, spreading my influence even to people that I'm never going to see again. But then here's the really sad part of the story. Then when we actually got the project finished and were ready to get back on the bus, we came to the realization that we had royally screwed up when it came to what we were going to thank God for, because Catholic Arts tradition was that every night a select group of teenagers who were designated the team reporters would talk about how they saw God that particular week. Our team reporter was assigned to talk about what he had seen in God on Monday. And we had all said, "Oh, well, it's obviously going to be the food," because our resident's mother had prepared us this humongous lunch by herself, and we were like, "Catholic Heart, we don't need your food. This is amazing." We got to eat in her dining room and everything, and we just said, "Yeah, this is by far the best that we've seen." But then after this concrete thing happened, we were like, "Shoot, we really should have said that instead, if only we were picked later." So Jeff said, "Well, we're going to talk about it anyway." So the first thing he did was, before we were about to get on the bus, it was tradition for the teenager who was the prayer share leader to give a closing prayer before we headed out for the day. And Jeff said, "Just this once, let me take over." So we all took off our hats and got into prayer positions, and he said, "Lord, if we don't believe in modern miracles, we do now, so thank you." And then, just to further make sure that everyone knew it, when it came time for the teenagers of that day to say their reports about how they had seen God that week, Jeff snuck onto the stage unprompted meaning he was the only adult on a stage full of teenagers. And when it came time for him to get the microphone, he told the story of the concrete miracle. Not only was he the only person to get a round of applause, but they also filmed it and they have it on the summary DVD so that I can rewatch his saying whenever I want to. I don't know if the DVD still works because I've overwatched it quite a lot. Didn't mean to make an unintentional Overwatch pun there. But the fact remains is that clearly the camp prioritized that story as the best thing that had happened that week. And this was proof that we had such a better group of teenagers than we did the following year because they were selective about when they clapped. And no one told him off for sneaking onto the stage because they figured he's not trying to disrupt anything. He's trying to tell these other teenagers, like, hey, if I don't share the story, these teenagers might not believe in modern miracles. So I am sneaking onto the stage for the sake of spreading the word of God. Why couldn't that have carried over into 2015? Next we have falsetto with a question mark. This year was the year that I got to do the Bohemian Rhapsody as one of the adult skits. However, what the teenagers weren't told was that we were all lip syncing to the song, especially me because I only knew one word of the Bohemian Rhapsody, and that was the falsetto Galileo. So, of course, I was like really nervous about the whole thing, and I only had like an hour to practice before the program started. So when it was time for us to start learning what we were going to lip sync, I said, "Ooh, I can do it." And then I actually sung the falsetto Galileo. The camp staff members laughed and they said, "Well, you're actually going to be lip syncing the night of." So in the recording that you can see, you actually see me opening up my arms and mouthing out the words of Galileo in tune with the song. Granted, I had to have one of the adults be a prompter to point at me when it was my turn because I didn't know the song. But regardless, after the song was over, the teenagers were so impressed. They clapped like crazy. They came up to me. They were like, "Oh my gosh, Paul, you did such a great job singing that false Galileo song." And I said, that was just me lip syncing. I wasn't actually singing. And they refused to believe me. They said, "No way, Paul, you've got the range to do that. You weren't lip syncing." And to this day, I think some of them still believe that that was actually me singing. Next, we have "one is not like the others," which was a saying that the priest that we had kept going on and on about because he had quite a lot of other priests and deacons helping him out with Mass. And sometimes he would be on the stage with other people that were like giving a testimony about how they saw God during the camp. And every single time these group of people would come on the stage, he would point to every single person, including himself, and say, "One is not like the other." What he was referring to was the fact that of all of the guys on the stage, only one of them still had hair. The rest were bald. So eventually he pointed to his head, which he himself was bald, and there was that one deacon that still had a full head of hair, and he said, "One is not like the other." That wasn't the only cool thing he said. He also had one of his lines from his homily recorded on the summary DVD where he said, "Are you part of the solution or are you part of the problem?" Which is definitely something I've been thinking about since then. But, Esabelle couldn't fit everything, and I think that particular saying is more legendary than others. Next, we have the Bohemian Rhapsody, which fits into the same category as the falsetto, just this was the entire skit. And again, let me repeat that I only knew one word of that song, so to compensate for me not knowing it, one of the adults was the prompter where she would point to each of us when it was our cue to do the various things. So for example, when we were supposed to shine the flashlights into our faces during a certain singing part, I didn't know that I was supposed to be doing it, so I was really following along with that prompt. That's why if you look really closely at the video, you'll notice that my head was slightly turned to the side to look at the adult next to me so that I was following what he was doing, but I was also like very intently looking forward, but like at a downward angle so that I could really focus on that adult. And if you look even closer, you might have noticed that a lot of times I was a bit delayed in holding up my flashlight because I was following along and I didn't know the song properly. I actually improvised quite a lot during that song. After we were done with the freestyle, which we were told just dance however you feel like, we were simply told lay down on the stage and turn off your flashlights. I decided I was going to be creative and I decided to act like I was dying, so I clutched my heart and fell over in this super dramatic way because whenever I'm doing a performance, I love to add my own spin to it. So I think if I were to ever become a professional actor, I'd love to be able to improvise. Next, we have The Beautiful Mess, which is the final one we have, totaling the number of references in 2014 to 8 overall. Beautiful Mess was the theme of the camp, and they managed to get quite a cool theme song for it, which was from the top of the mountain, sing it. Make it loud enough to hear it. Voices will join in singing. Everyone will start to see it. Is everything that I'm seeing? It's what keeps me believing. Beautiful mess. Everything that I'm seeing. Beautiful mess. Is what keeps me believing. Your love is infinite. There's a blessing in disguise when you open up your eyes to a beautiful mess. But I think of all the themes we've ever had at the camp, this one was the one that everyone remembered the most because, one, it was based on a homily Pope Francis gave when he first became the Pope, where he told the young people, go and make a mess in the community. And we would just overuse that theme so much that it became a go-to if we didn't know what else to say. So, for example, when we were trying to figure out what t-shirts to design for that particular year, the same adult chaperone that hit the machine to get the Wally card suggested, why don't we have a shirt where we draw on some chest hair so that they can say, that is a beautiful mess. Believe it or not, almost half of the teenagers voted for it, and it was so close to being voted as the finale that the group leader actually gave them permission that she said, if you want to design that shirt, you guys do it. But on the first day, you're all wearing the official shirt. So some of them actually did have t-shirts that had chest hair on the top. If people would come back sweaty, we'd say, well, you look like a beautiful mess. There were also the affirmations where we would be told, like, hey, say to the person on your left, like, something that you like about that person. And some of us didn't know each other as much as others, so if, say, someone was shy or they were newbies, they'd say, I just want you to know that you are a beautiful mess. We would also pass by each other and say, you're a beautiful mess. No, you're a beautiful mess. And then we'd have, like, even the staff members would say, like, guess what, guys? You made a mess in the community. You really are a beautiful mess. So of all the 8 mission trips I've been on, that one is by far the best. And that covers all of the references. Next time we come on, we're going to move on to 2012, which has 11 references. 2012 was the legendary year where the Minnesota people came back. So hopefully I can do it justice. Hope you guys enjoyed that list. Let me know what your favorite stories were down in the comments. If you're Esabelle, tell me, why was that mission trip not one of your favorites? It was amazing. I don't know why you hated it so much. Special thanks again to Esabelle and Sipporah Arts and Illustrations for making this amazing t-shirt in the first place. Special thanks to my patrons Matthew Rakowski, Spoon Ghost, and Splatcat for supporting me on Patreon. I love reading and responding to your comments, so don't be afraid of sharing your thoughts, making them long. I want to hear every single thing you have to say. And until the next time, remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye.